And the Ospreys welcome us back here to McDuff Lives on another Friday for our Friday live chat with Marcia. Hello, Marcia.
Hello, John. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the last Friday in May.
May the 30th, 2025. It's 2 minutes after 11 a.m., and we almost started on time this time.
Close.
All right. Well, welcome whoever and wherever you are. We're glad to have you. If you're watching us on our Facebook page, welcome. How about if you're on Rumble, McDuff Lives all one word. McDuff Lives all one word. That's where we want you to subscribe so that you don't miss out on anything.
Please.
And then we are also broadcasting on our 2 YouTube channels. I have 2 of them just because I know they're going to take one of them down someday.
That's right.
And I want to have time to grab the other one before. Anyway, I don't like YouTube, but the reach that YouTube gives me is important. So
Yes.
and if I say something that I need to take down, then I'll just take the show down. And, I'll send you a note. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll say I took the show down and watch it on Rumble. Anyway, welcome everybody. And Marcia, been a very interesting week here. I've had some really fun shows
Yes.
this week. And,
and I'm just going to jump in there and say it. Your show yesterday was, I've already told you, I think it was one of the best ever. I think that you shared some thoughts that were really, really significant. And I applaud you for your show yesterday.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, that was Minefields number 290. And all of my minefields are available on my archive at BitChute. The BitChute archive is called McDuff Uncensored. I called it that because I created it right after YouTube had taken down my first big channel, McDuff, Kennedy's Man to Smash the CIA, which had over 12,000 subscribers. I've never gotten near that since then. And, shadow banned or not, I've certainly got a really good crew of followers and subscribers that have been with me for 6 years now. So anyway,
wow, 6 years.
If you're new, welcome to the channel. And what we do on Fridays is we take your comments and chats in the chat room. The chat room on Rumble is where most people gather to so you can see each other. If you want to make a chat on YouTube, for instance, you can do that too, or on Facebook, or of course on our X channel. So if you're watching on our X channel, thank you so much. And, spread the word about our Friday morning live chat with Marcia.
Yes. Share it. That would be good.
Yeah.
I guess I should take my own advice, though. I didn't share it today. Normally I do. For some reason, I didn't.
Well, we've had a busy couple of weeks, and this week I've been glad to be able to put most of my attention into the show, instead of having to go to the doctor and deal with, medical questions. So, although it's rained all week, it's a sunny day, and I can't wait to get out and do some gardening this afternoon.
Oh, is that what we're doing this afternoon?
That's what I'm doing.
Okay, gardening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, everything's grown like crazy right now. And,
yeah.
And, I've got to trim the bushes, I've got to trim the trees, like the crepe myrtle tree in the back. It's glorious, beautiful when it's in bloom,
Right.
But if it rains on it, the leaves will get so heavy that the limbs will break. So we need to go out and trim the...
All right. Well, if you're going to be out there tree trimming today, I'm going to be out there with you.
All right.
You need someone to hold the ladder.
That's great.
Or the former.
That's a deal.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you'll be a Latter-day Saint then, won't you?
Latter stay saint.
Oh, well. The only thing that I know you and I had really had a lot of comments about was the Maha report. And I did a show on it with Adam Finnegan on this past Tuesday. And, there's a lot to like in that report.
Oh my gosh, so much to like in that report. I love that report.
I do too, except for it doesn't have anything about the danger of the jabs.
Right.
And-
Absolutely. I mean, you and Adam talked about that, and he's absolutely right.
Yes, and nor does it address the root causes, as Adam Finnegan shows in his book, The Sleeper Agent, of chronic diseases and Lyme disease. Does it?
The root causes of disease,
Of chronic disease. And Lyme disease.
such as?
Well, such as Lyme disease.
Okay. Well, Lyme disease, no. Not that I've come across. I haven't read the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it gets into some pretty important stuff.
Okay.
That I was reading it and I was thrilled. I mean, it talks about the fact that we have, it starts out this way by talking about the fact that we have the highest spending on healthcare of any industrialized country. I think it refers to it as peer nations, meaning those with economies similar to ours. And yet we have the lowest health outcomes, primarily measured in how long people live. We have the shortest lifespans of, the European countries and the other industrialized countries. Yet we, in some cases, double our healthcare spending per capita. And that's the premise that the whole thing starts with, is why is that? What is going on in this country that is causing us to spend more money, yet be less healthy? And we have the highest incidence of cancer and heart disease and diabetes but it mostly talks about it in the context of childhood disease. And then it lists the reasons, including nutrition, and gets into nutrition. And I haven't finished the chapter on nutrition, but so far it's mostly been talking about ultra processed food.
Yes.
And really goes into detail about the role of ultra processed food in our food industry, and how 70% of what you find in grocery stores is ultra processed. And it really gets into it. And it talks about the additives, the chemicals, the dyes. It talks about other causes such as lack of exercise, over medication. And that's something that I really want to read about, is this over medication, because I wonder if it's going to get into the vaccines. But as I'm reading, and then it also talks about the amount of screen time that children are spending, which I don't think that's just children. I think that that's all of us. And I mentioned lack of exercise, but it also talks about social isolation and mental disorders, depression, and the very high rate of depression and suicidal thoughts among teenagers. It really gets into some very valuable stuff that we don't talk about enough. So I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled. And I was reading this just yesterday as I was reading part of it. And I'm thinking to myself, this is so exciting that the government is addressing these issues. And it also talks about the revolving door at FDA, and the fact that the Food and Drug Administration is being run by people who then end up working. The last 9 of 10 commissioners of the Food and Drug Administration have ended up working for industry. And the fact that there is this, and Adam mentioned it too, the revolving door between industry and regulation when it comes to food and pharmacy and drugs. So it talks about all of these things, and I'm reading this saying, this is wonderful, but it's not going to be taken seriously, because all of those people with TDS and all of those people who wanted to discredit Secretary Kennedy are going to reject it. And it's going to be questioned, and it's going to be rejected, and they're going to say we can't take it seriously. And then what appears this morning in the Washington Post, an article about the fact that this is all based on flawed science. And it goes on and on about the AI, and it shows how many of the sources are AI, and they weren't double checked because they're wrong, or they're crediting the wrong people. It even says AI is hallucinating studies. And we all know that AI is in its infancy. It's not truly dependable. If you're going to use AI and cite AI, you got to double check it. I mean, the courts have already established that if you use AI in any court briefs, you have to have double checked it. And so, and it's the report, the online report apparently is being updated constantly, because as critics are finding these mistakes, they're jumping in and fixing the mistakes, which is great, or taking out the references that are flawed. But the fact is, it turns out it was full of flawed references. It doesn't mean what they're saying is wrong. In fact, what they're saying is so right, but they're saying it full of flawed references. And I don't know what percentage of the references are flawed, because that's, people are still combing through it, figuring it out, with the critics gleefully counting all the flawed references. But the fact that it's there is so disappointing. I really wish this commission had worked harder to make this report bulletproof, because it's so important and it's so full of good information.
Wow, well said.
Thank you.
Yeah, and what's their alternative? Do they want a report that says, processed food is fine? What are they looking for?
Right. Then that's a good question, because of course they don't say. The article that I read didn't get into the fact that there is some very good content in this report. All they're reporting about is the flaws.
So it's political.
Of course. TDS.
Yeah. You think anybody doesn't know what TDS is by now?
Oh, I'm sure many people don't.
Yeah, but they probably don't watch McDuff Lives.
That's right. I'm pretty sure anyone who watches McDuff Lives knows what that is.
Well, let's say hello to our chat room, and we have Brightmoor Dinosaurs here.
Indeed.
Let's see. Report today about farmers supposedly asking for H5N1 vaccines to protect fowl cows. Meanwhile, Trump canceled a Biden-initiated $750 million contract with Moderna to develop a bird flu jab. I don't know, Marcia, if you're following the H5N1 at all, but the one that really just gets to me is the ostrich farm in Canada. This woman, I guess, as far as I know, it's a woman who has a farm, and she raises ostriches. And she has, what was it, 70 or 100 of them or something. And the thing is that ostriches live a long time.
Okay.
And so she gets to know them personally. She has personal relationships with all of
these. She sees them as individuals.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're like friends,
like our pets.
Or family.
Yeah.
And for apparently no scientific reason whatsoever, the government of Canada has decided to cull all of these ostriches because they're afraid of H5N1.
Not because they've seen it, but because they're afraid of it.
I guess. I mean, I don't know the story. I said that because I'm being pejorative, because I can't think of any legitimate reason.
Right.
And this H5N1 thing, I mean, come on. They tried to scare us with bird flu before the election, remember?
Yes, I do.
And, and where did that go? Nowhere. There is definitely dark money involved in these vaccines, and the people that want their investments to pay off are willing to do whatever it takes. And
right.
That's where I just can't believe the American people are, not wising up to this.
Well, I did read this morning, and this is also in the Washington Post, that this contract with Moderna that was canceled by the Trump administration, one of the reasons it was canceled is because no human being has been diagnosed with bird flu in 3 months. So why have a human vaccine?
And this is lining up politically, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, because it's Mark Carney in Canada now, the globalist bankster, from the city of London, who is running Canada now. It always has been, of course, but now even he came out, now I'm going to be the prime minister of Canada. Okay. And so everybody said, fine, you can be the prime minister. We can't stop you, because Canada is, it's still owned. So anyway, they're doing it up there because that's the globalist position is, yeah, we can't kill the birds, the Trump side, according to this report and I saw that too, I thought, wow, this is the very first time that we've seen a vaccine delisted, taken off of,
Right.
yeah. And that gives a lot of people hope that maybe
Absolutely.
this administration
Yes,
is going to
yes.
start calling out these frauds.
I hope so. I hope so. Looks like Brightmore has more to say.
Google was declared a monopoly, and the remedy from the judge is to sell Google Chrome browser. Google contends AI is changing the nature of search engines, making browsers less able to monopolize data. Well, I don't know. I don't have any comment on that, really. Just who can trust? I mean, did you ever trust Google in the first place?
Oh, I did. I did in the beginning.
Oh, well, you got over that fast, though, I hope.
I did. Yeah. I mean, we're talking late 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was cool as could be, that you could do that. And then there was Jeeves and there was, other ones that said, well, don't rely on one, check it out in other ones. And, there was, I can't remember the other one that I signed up for, but
I know it is funny now that,
but, see what they've done. They funneled us all into Google.
Well, it's become the generic term. You don't say, I'm going to go online and use my search engine.
Yeah.
Or, some kind of a verb, I'm going to search in the engine this. No, you say you Google it.
Yeah.
Google has become the generic verb for going online and searching for something. And now when you use, when I go to Safari, which is the browser I use, when I go to Safari, what jumps up is Google when I go searching. I mean, it seems like Safari defaults to Google.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little frustrating, I think, but, again, we're still in the infancy of a lot of this technology and definitely the AI technology. And, that was in the article that I read about the Maha report. One of the critics said, to depend on AI is not a smart thing to do because AI is in its infancy and is still learning, and we're still learning how to develop it. And you can't at this point just rely on it unconditionally. And that is true. I can't argue with that.
Well, here's the question. Why is Elon Musk separating from the Trump administration? And I understand there's going to be a press conference.
1:30 today is what I read. I don't know if that has stayed the same or changed, but as far as I know, it's at 1:30.
But what do you guys think? I mean, why? I think he's frustrated. I think he's like, oh, that big beautiful bill is loaded with Christmas ornaments for stuff that we don't like.
Exactly.
And I don't like it. So, thank you, but no thanks. I'll see you later.
Well, there have been 3 reasons cited. There is that. There is the fact that he has said that the Washington establishment is much more difficult to negotiate and to unravel than he thought it would be. And then, of course, his companies. I mean, both Tesla and SpaceX are struggling with various issues, and they need his participation. And I think the board of one, I don't remember which one it was, said that he needs to work give a certain number of hours per week or something. Anyway, he needs to spend more time on his companies. So I'm sure those are all the reasons that are going to be cited. But as of now, Trump is saying he'll still be in contact. So I guess he'll be some sort of informal advisor, of which I'm sure Trump has many.
You may remember back when the Trump first started going after USAID and all the scandalous USAID payments, and we're going to close it down. We're going to fold it into the State Department, and we're going to completely, clean it up. And with Harley Schlanger on one of our Tuesday shows, Harley of the LaRouche and Schiller organization. I said, I'm all for this, and Harley said, well, wait a minute, there's certain legal restrictions on what the president can do with these things, and so we're going to have to wait and see. And I think that his prediction has proven to be correct because. And once he said that, I said, "Oh, that makes sense because when they create these programs, Congress always has some say in it,
right?
When they create an administration to oversee something, then usually there's some congressional committee that has some oversight, and you can't get around that. So And then you also have the constitutional protections that come out of the Due Process Clause,
right,
and Equal Protection Clause. And, these are the gifts that we got at the end of the Civil War, that our individual rights are entitled to not be deprived without, quote, due process of law.
right.
So these actions are wide open for court challenges.
But look at the speed that these are happening, these court challenges.
Well, yeah, because this was all predicted by the DNC folks that knew that they're going to have judges in place that are going to protect their their babies.
Right. Yes. And I think that it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful that the court challenges are happening because I think interpreting the Constitution is where this ultimately leads, and we'll have a better understanding of what the Constitution will and will not allow. It's mind-boggling that yesterday the news was that the courts have stopped the tariffs, and today the news is that the courts have reinstated the tariffs. I mean, I saw two different publications refer to it as whiplash. And yes, I agree. Absolutely. It's from day to day. You don't know. Well, you just don't know.
If they were able to get a Democratic-oriented judge on the district court, or the whatever that court is called, the Court of Foreign something.
Court of International Trade or International Commerce.
Thank you. And so, which I didn't even know that court existed.
I didn't either.
It's crazy, that they create these things so that specialists come in and rule the roost, right?
Right.
So anyway, it's all political because, you had your lower court say one thing but they're probably more recently appointed because they're just at the low level. They're at district court level.
Well,
but then you got the guys or the women that are at the appeals court level that might have been appointed by Trump in his first term. So that's why the political, you just can't avoid it.
Well, and I am of the belief that it's not all political. There are some things that Trump is doing that I think are going to be proven by everybody that are unconstitutional.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think some of the freedom of speech issues, as you said, many of these things that have been established by Congress, the executive can't undo. It takes Congress to undo them. So we'll sort through all of these,
like the Civil Rights Act, I mean, what are you going to do?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're going to have to put wheelchair accessible stairs on all the buses. I mean, you can't argue with that. It's in the law.
Right. Well, that's exactly. Going back to Musk, Brightmore says Musk trying to appease stockholders. Absolutely. And Caravaggio, Musk is only a fellow traveler. His real loyalties lie with NSA. Trump is temporary. The deep state is eternal. Ooh, that's heavy.
his real loyalties lie with the NSA. I'm not sure about that. I think his real loyalties lie with the PayPal mafia, the Peter Thiel group.
Absolutely. But then again, is the PayPal mafia affiliated with the NSA in some way?
It's like everybody's affiliated with the NSA, or else you don't exist, right? As a powerful group.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the Office of Net Assessment, what does that sound like but a bunch of gurus sitting around deciding, who's going to win the next election, because which one's better for the country.
Right.
We understand this a whole lot better than any voters will ever understand it. So we'll just kind of push it this way or that way, depending upon what's good for the country.
Corky says chimney replacement, had to move bricks. Interesting. In with one brick, out with the other. This is a national stress test. Many national stress tests these days.
Yeah.
Brightmore. Trump orders U.S. military to halt coordination with Israel on possible strike on Iran's nuclear sites. President told Netanyahu not to attack while nuclear talks advance. But, ... Not to attack while nuclear talks advance, but Israel continues to prep for potential assault. Interesting that Gaza developer Jared Kushner has retreated from the spotlight during the current Trump administration and the continuing genocide in Gaza. Well, isn't Jared's dad now ambassador to France? I think it is. So, the family is still somewhere involved. I think what's interesting, though, is that some of the EU countries are starting to criticize Israel and are even suggesting some sanctions on Israel. Right now, it's all just talk, but I find that fascinating that the EU is beginning to recognize, including Germany. Merz in Germany has now spoken out and said, to kill innocent people, this has gone beyond trying to find the bad guys.
I just view, the German government is entirely beholden to the United States government. And Trump is the one that drew the line. It's about a month ago when he said, the conditions are very bad in Gaza. They need medicine, they need food, and we're going to do something about it. We're going to take care of it. Now, he didn't visibly do anything for the next 2 or 3 weeks. I didn't see anything, but I think what's going on is that the word passed down to Merz that he has to change his tune. And
from
not objecting.
No, who passed the word?
From Trump down to Merz.
I see.
In other words, the Trump is the one that is leading policy in this regard, and that never was the case before he got elected. So yeah, I can't see Germany acting as a sovereign country. It's a kind of a part of American muscle, but yeah, I'd love to, and you mentioned the EU.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the whole EU with Ursula von der Leyen and all that, that's all just constructed fake stuff that is being imposed on the people of Europe by, the subterfuge of redistributing wealth and other ways. The corruption of it is just so horrible to see that I can't credit the EU with anything positive. It just, I want to see the nations of Europe to be sovereign again, just like I want the United States of America to be sovereign again.
So do you think that these leaders, and I think including von der Leyen, starting to hint at stepping back or stepping away from Israel, do you think that is some bigger entity sticking the toe in the water?
I just think it's Trump saying we're not going.
But why
We're
wouldn't
not.
Trump do it? Why wouldn't Trump just say it rather than relying on the EU to say it or the EU countries to say it?
Well, I don't know that that's the case. I don't know if
Okay.
Trump hasn't said it. I think.
Oh, I'm pretty sure at this point, I don't recall hearing Trump say, I mean, he certainly has never used the word genocide and never has said anything as strong as I think what Mertz just came out and said. I think it was Mertz
Oh,
who said something about the fact that, you know, this has gone beyond trying to root out the bad guys.
I didn't hear the quote, so
Yeah,
I
I'm
defer
not.
to what
Yeah,
you.
I'm just working from memory here, trying to.
Yeah.
I mean, I could find it if you'll look at, you know,
No, that's not.
you take the chat for a minute. Now I'm curious.
All right, you can look. I'll roll through and see. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that, the Jared Kushner part of it is so important. I think what's important is that Trump is telling Israel what to do. And that didn't happen under Biden. And
No.
or in the first Trump administration. And it tends to verify what I've read, and that is that I can't remember which president it was, but that just turned U.S. foreign policy with regard to the Middle East over to Israel. Said you can run our foreign policy,
Mm-hmm.
and that the idea that Trump would now come in and trump that pre-existing status is interesting. And again, what's behind Trump? It's a different force than the force that was behind Biden, and so things are lining up. He's on the opposite side of Biden's Middle East policy.
Well, and here I have a couple of quotes from Mertz. One of the things he says is that he, quote, no longer sees any logic as to how they serve the goal of fighting terror and freeing the hostages. In this respect, I take a very, very critical view of what has happened in the last few days. This was said earlier this week while he was visiting Finland. And then he goes on to say, the Israeli government must not do anything that its best friends are no longer prepared to accept.
I just think Frederick Mertz is just begging for credibility.
Oh,
He wants you to
that makes
believe
sense.
that he's got a conscience, and he's somebody that has had it up to here with these bad guys, and now he's calling them out. Oh, well, then I like Frederick Mertz because look, he called out the evil. But what is his policy towards Ukraine war?
Right. Right now, it's just been rhetoric in Gaza, and it's, certainly nothing in Ukraine. That is such a good point.
All right. Who's next?
All right. Let's back up a little bit here.
What do you think about that glacier collapse in Switzerland? Did you see that?
I did, yeah. I can't imagine my town being buried like that. Sure is a nice visual for those who want to discuss the fact that global warming is bringing the end. The climate change activists. Good thing that they had evacuated. I couldn't think of the word.
Only one person killed.
Yeah.
My angle on it is, there is something funny going on in Switzerland, and are they running some kind of projects under the mountains that are causing heat to be generated? I know that's speculation, but they do have the CERN, which is on the border with Spain, with Switzerland and France. And then they have the Gotthard Tunnel, which is such a famous YouTube video. If you haven't seen the Gotthard Tunnel opening ceremony, you really need to. If you, it'll strengthen your belief in the deep state and the creepiness of it.
Well, the fact is that, and I read an article in National Geographic, probably back in the 80s, that I read this article and it blew my mind, but it makes so much sense about the fact that Switzerland is one of the most militarily prepared countries in the world. That's how they maintain their neutral status, and at the time, I'm thinking, Switzerland doesn't need to have a strong military because they don't get involved. Well, they don't get involved because they choose not to, but in order to protect that position, they have to have a strong military, and everybody has to serve in the military. Every man. I don't remember if the women do too. This was back in the 80s, so probably not. But what you're talking about, the stuff that goes on underneath the mountains, was part of this article. And the fact that there are significant military facilities under the mountains, and that there might be a huge shrub, but that shrub is actually a fake, and it simply serves to hide some door that opens up to allow access, or maybe it's an air vent. It hides an air vent into this undermountain facility. They build all their highways to runway specifications so they can use the highways for runways, obviously not on the mountains, but where it's appropriate. It's amazing, the military and firing guns, shooting guns is one of the top sports in Switzerland. People go to gun clubs and they shoot. And ammunition is very highly regulated. Everybody can have a gun, but you can't have ammunition. You have to go to the club, check out the ammunition, use it, and then give it back. Or the military bases, the same thing. But they are very militarily prepared. So yeah, that's a very good point. What is going on underneath those mountains that's generating heat and melting those glaciers?
And isn't it interesting that the Bank of International Settlements, which is the head clearance bank of all the banks in the world, happens to be right there in Switzerland?
How convenient.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to attack the BIS, you got to get through the Swiss military.
Corky says, tunneling bridge, aqueduct, history all stolen. I don't understand that.
Maybe it's the Roman aqueducts and things.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe there's tunnels that existed for 2,000 years, but they've been hidden.
Ah, got it. I came across an article recently about all of these underground dwellings that they found in Scotland that date back like 5,000 years. Fascinating.
I'll tell you, if you look at Facebook, nowadays on my Facebook feed, 2 out of 3 of the things that hit my face, I didn't sign up for. I don't know who the heck they are, but there's something that's geared at me. Generally, something about Ireland, or something about something else that they know I'm interested in. And the point of those things is that those, like you watched the thing about the Blarney Stone in Ireland. He says, "Oh, isn't that interesting?" I watched the Blarney Stone, but that Blarney Stone little thing only lasts about 60 seconds, and then boom, you get an ad.
Ah, yeah,
So
yeah.
It's fishing for eyeballs, and I'm getting tired of it.
Me too. And the thing is that's so interesting to me is that it is based on, like, I'm getting right now lots of, like, as I've told you, lots of Italian stuff. And, we both like to learn languages. And so I'm getting tons of videos about learning Italian and Italian lessons, but it'll change eventually. And then I saw this thing this morning about the Scottish underground dwellings. And, sure, I bet very soon I'm going to start getting more archaeological stuff, because as soon as you click on something, then your feed changes.
Absolutely right. There's another comment about Switzerland from Brightmore. He says, good thing the Swiss guards protect the Pope. Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Never understood that, and I've never understood their funny outfits.
Well, the outfits are great, from the Renaissance, they wore a lot of funny stuff in the
That's
Renaissance.
True. You'd think that between now and then and now they might have updated their uniforms.
But see, this is where one of my favorite bloggers, Jure, or Sean Ross, who I've talked about many times, he covers all that. And the idea of Switzerland being the mountain redoubt of the Templars, the Knights Templar. So the Knights Templar are the original bankers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they end up in Switzerland running the banking system of Europe out of Switzerland. And the Pope, they say, entrusted the Vatican treasury to the Templars. So if that's the case, then the Swiss guards are there to make sure, that the Pope doesn't do anything that would interfere with the money being used to finance the projects, that are run out of Switzerland. Something like that. But you can find I love to watch Sean Ross's work. It's called Giureh, Giureh, and you can find him on YouTube. He hasn't put anything up in a few months, but when he does, he really gives you a good show.
Interesting. I am fascinated by this concept. The new strategy is to use AI across media to generate personalized distractions from real research.
Yeah.
And that blows my mind. Yes, of course. Of course. It is so easy for me to get totally lost in some of these silly dog videos. And of course, any animal. I've just recently started following a donkey.
Oh, the donkeys, man. The donkeys.
Have you come across the donkey named Henry? He's so cute. Henry has his own page, and he is this brown donkey, but his nose is white, and he hugs his owners. He is so, I get so distracted, and that's it. I get distracted. Yeah. So I stop reading about the Maha report because I'm watching Henry videos or, whatever videos.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely what they're doing, and it's just another version of mind control.
Yes,
it's mind control on a very huge basis that enabled by the internet, which was created by the Department of Defense.
Garden Girl 24 says, speaking of gold, whatever happened to Trump's report on Fort Knox?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it all just kind of got buried, kind of like Jeffrey Epstein's suicide. I don't know if you saw, Marcia, but Dan Bongino and Kash Patel earlier in the week were getting interviewed about Jeffrey Epstein. Was it really a suicide?
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and if you watch them, just the body language and the way their eyes are like, bulging and, like they're really trying to convince you that, oh yeah, we know it was definitely a suicide, but how many of the videotapes there was the power went down on the video system at the same time that he committed suicide? Come on. But Bongino and Patel are like, oh yeah, he committed suicide. It's just
these are not the droids you're looking for.
Yeah, and if you really think that Trump's going to change things, you have to question, why didn't those guys, have some real evidence if he's dead? They said they had a videotape to prove it, but the report that the FBI issued after the fact said that there were no videotapes. So
And I can understand if there's a videotape, I can understand not releasing it, but you show it to a select number of reporters, just like you would an execution. If you're on death row,
yeah,
you have a select number of reporters there who can see it and report on it.
yeah. Well, Corky's right. Yeah, Trump backed down on the Fort Knox question.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Garden Girl.
Oh,
Sorry, I took it down.
but
Oh, I see. Here we go. Back down on.
but see how this ties into the BIS and Switzerland we were talking about? Is that back in the late 19th century, in 1890 something, all the bankers got together with the world governments and they agreed upon this using gold bonds to transfer money as opposed to transferring it with gold bars. So it's a whole lot less weight to carry around. It's just, you just got your bonds and your papers and your valise, and you handcuff it to your arm, or whatever you need to do, but you're carrying $1 billion worth of gold in your briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
And that system has enabled the already existing powers to just completely suck all the rest of the money out of the rest of the economy, because they have the power of instantly moving $1 billion from Switzerland to New York, or from New York to Brisbane, or wherever the next investment's going to be. And so if somebody in Brisbane starts up a business that's starting to do well, selling designer clothes or something, then the smart people at BIS are going to say, hey, there's an opportunity down there in Brisbane, Australia.
And BIS stands for
Bank of International Settlements
Okay.
in Switzerland. And
Okay.
it's like the top. That's where the gold bonds certificates are traded back and forth. But they didn't even do the paper anymore. It's all on computers.
Yeah, it's all digital. Yeah.
So suddenly there's an entity in that place in Brisbane, Australia, that's financed, to $1 billion to take over that industry, and boom, they do it. And I can just see this having happened all over the world ever since 1898, as these big banks just get bigger and bigger and swallow one another up. And
Yeah.
that's why I think, when you're asking where the gold is it in Fort Knox? Well, they're not going to tell you, because, even if the gold is in Fort Knox, the paper that represents that gold has probably been traded all around the world 150 times. So even if it's there, do we own it? It's this whole sleight of monetary policy that happened again when they created the Bank of International Settlements and these gold bonds, so that they didn't have to carry the gold around.
And they don't teach this stuff. They don't talk about
I
this
just learned
stuff.
it myself in the last month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have to admit, I didn't take any economics courses when I was in college. And I regret that now, because I ended up in economic development, but a little bit different. But still, I wish I had taken some economics courses because of this kind of thing. I think as a citizen, I wish I better understood how all of this crap works.
Yeah.
Because by not understanding it, then I am vulnerable to being fooled, which is exactly what they're doing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Corky likes to think of alchemy, but I think the real alchemy is the financial system.
Yeah.
It just can take something worthless and turn it into a cash cow by suitable investment policy that comes from people that already have a huge store of wealth that they can invest. Like they do in California. What do you call those people that invest in a new idea?
Angels, or there's another word.
Yeah.
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 And that's a word
And
I should know
and
from my career, but
but
in economic
the
development.
whole idea of investment capital
Right.
driving where all the money goes, where it goes into something that they think they can make money from.
Right.
It doesn't go into something that's going to be good for the country or good for the community or good for you. It goes into things that are good for them that already have that huge wealth of really I always call it an empire. It is an empire.
Oh, sure.
But that empire is based upon paper and digital manipulation. And the big challenge, and I think Anton Chaikin points it out very, very well in his book, Who We Are, is for the people to take charge of the financial system.
Right.
Instead of letting the financial system take charge of the people. It's so obvious that people are afraid of confronting. How could I confront the Chase Bank or the JP Morgans or any, they're too big. I can't confront them. But if you don't, then they're just going to keep on swallowing up every single little fish in the ocean.
Exactly. Games rule, rigging easy when understood. Yep, Corky, you're right.
Yeah, especially if the other people don't know the rules.
That's the word, venture capitalists.
Thank you.
Thank you, Garden Girl. Whew.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like trying to listen to what you're saying, but at the same time, going, what's that word? What's that word?
Venture. Yeah.
Venture capitalists.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like the Ventures, the old rock and roll band.
Oh, there's an interesting one. James Comey has been trashing Cash and Bonino's or qualifications to run the FBI. Comey is still maintaining that he didn't associate 8647 with whacking Trump.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, they love to tease us,
Yeah, they do.
That was a tease. That was like, we're going to get all the Maha people are going to say, oh, that's he's a domestic terrorist now. We have to prosecute him. But at the same time, all of the Biden liberal people are going to say, oh, what the hell's wrong with these nutcases? They're just a bunch of shells on the beach. What is 86? Who cares?
Right. Well, and it just means get rid of. It doesn't mean
it just means get rid of. That means vote.
Right. Right. Corky says Plausible Deniability Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of the Line Corporation. Remember to watch the Corporation documentary, 10 parts.
Cool.
Oh, that's something to
Plausible Deniability Incorporated.
Put on my list.
Yeah. The great Wurlitzer of the CIA just covers everything with plausible stories.
Deniability. Yeah.
And you look at the JFK stuff today, and there's all of these different stories that keep coming out. But I'm past it. I have my understanding is where I'm at. I don't need I'm not going to get spun by a spin doctor again. Not that I've been in the past, but I've just been too befuddled with all the different evidence. But this was a concentrated group effort based upon the same considerations we were just talking about, and that is the economy needed him gone. He was just too intrusive into the plans. JFK.
Oh, JFK. Okay.
Yeah. He was just too much of a roadblock to all of the projects. And frankly, they never thought he'd win the election, and he probably wouldn't have if it weren't for the Chicago mob. So where does all this stuff really end, except for they are they and we are us, and they don't want us to be participants in this great republic.
Absolutely. They want us to be followers. Garden Girl says DeSantis just signed a bill recognizing gold, silver coins as legal tender in Florida. Wonder how that works.
It is interesting because, the Constitution says the Congress has the authority to coin and mint money. So I don't know if Florida can do that without the Congress's permission.
Interesting.
course, they banned chemtrails too, so that was no
There
more
you go.
you guys, no more chemtrails. You know, you heard it right here.
Speaking of state laws, did you see that there is a lawsuit in Maryland to allow independents to vote, registered independents to vote in primaries?
Could you vote in both primaries if you wanted to?
I don't know that they have designated that how it would work, because that's something I want to know. And I just saw that this morning, and I'm going to Google that. So see, there I go. I'm going to engine search that to see how states that do allow independents to vote in primaries, how they manage that, because I would like to know how that might work. But hallelujah, because I don't think Maryland is as blue as everybody thinks it is. I think that you have a lot of people in Maryland who are independents, but they register as Democrats so that they can vote in primaries.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the whole story of Baltimore, you know, is just such a tragedy, really, for the people of Maryland. The way that Baltimore has just been turned into a permanent residence for the deep state crooks. You know, not the people. I'm talking about like Sarbanes, okay, and the Pelosi family. I mean, the way that city is gerrymandered. If you look at it,
Oh my
at
gosh,
the congressional districts,
3 is it?
It's all organized, you know, so that they can keep control over the whole state through the Baltimore Democratic Party.
Well, and so much of it, of that particular district, is waterfront, so that you have, and then you have all these peninsulas.
Yeah, where the ships
so
land.
this peninsula, no, not just where the ships land, but where the rich people live.
Okay.
So you have this peninsula and then that peninsula, and there's a waterway in between, and then another waterway, and they're all part of the same voting district, even though you have to drive through other voting districts to get from one to the other. Mm-hmm. It's just so obvious.
Yeah.
It's and everybody goes, "Oh no, that's contiguous." No, it's not. Not if you have to cross water. But no, they argue it's contiguous.
Oh, Marcia, we only got a minute left.
No, has it gone by that quickly?
Pick us a closing remark if you can find something.
Well, you know, on the subject, Pelosi, another one I liked until I didn't. Ugh. And yes, Corky, I so agree with you. I saw this woman, and being a woman and being a feminist, I'm going, oh, yay, a woman who has gained some traction, some power, some leadership in Congress.
Yeah.
And then I get to know her and I'm like, no. It's disappointing. All the women who I thought were going to be important. You know, at one point I liked Hillary Clinton.
Or Michelle.
And well, Michelle I don't dislike as much as I dislike Hillary, but you know, I do think that Michelle actually has some appeal, but that's for another day. But yeah, boy, Pelosi, I'm just sorry that this woman who has risen to so much power in American government is who she is. Ugh.
Well, Hillary Clinton wrote a book, said it takes a village to raise a child. But I think she did an awful lot in her career to destroy those villages that, you know, we'd like to see, those hypothetical happy towns, Mayberries, and the Main Street economy, everything.
Yep.
You know, what hypocrisy.
Well, X-Ray Girl says, I just got here. It's over, ? And we're so sorry, X-Ray Girl. Thank you so much for joining us. But yeah, noon is when we wrap up. So join us next week at 11.
All right. And
Eastern time.
The Ospreys are ready and queued up to sing for us. So here they go. Bye-bye, everyone.